In Miami, living life to the fullest means going to extremes.
I did not care whether I lived or died. As a matter of fact, I wish that I had died.
Pushing the limits of the body.
We're getting very close to possibly a rescue.
And testing the strength of the mind.
I think it's just a matter of time before we find a cure for paralysis.
But living on the edge can mean going too far.
I went from being in the best shape of my life to fighting for my life.
And getting wiped out. September 17th, 2001, Ground Zero in New York. More than 600 rescue workers sift through 1.5 million tons of rubble, hunting for survivors.
The first thing I did when I saw the utter devastation was just become completely overwhelmed.
210-story office buildings. We didn't find a piece of office furniture in the rubble while we were there. No chairs, no anything. It all had disintegrated. So all we had left basically was the steel.
Members of the Miami-Dade Fire Department are on hand, helping local rescue workers grapple with the devastation.
We're like, wow. We were flabbergasted at the beginning. We weren't sure what was going on.
The size and magnitude of it was incredible. When you're actually searching for the possibility of live victims, it changes the whole scenario.
We tried to remove debris to create voids to be searched. We did a lot of search and rescue. We assisted the city of New York in making recoveries. We just worked a lot of hours.
That was the ultimate disaster area. But every year, there are more than 40 catastrophes around the world. This time, the scene is downtown Miami.
Shooting metal!
More than 25 firefighters are on the site of a collapsed 2.5-story building, searching for a possible survivor, trapped beneath a layer of steel and concrete.
We can scoot this. We can also move this forward. So
The victim might be crushed, and without medical attention could die within hours.
We're looking for victims, so we're not here clearing debris.
Miami firefighter Roger Miranda thought he had seen it all. Until he saw this.
We're not really exposed to collapsed structures, collapsed shoring, having to breach through a wall in order to rescue a trapped fireman. This exposes us to that.
You can get very frustrated doing what we do, but sometimes when you make the save and you make the rescue, it's very gratifying. There's no better feeling in the world.
Joseph Bartlett is an 8-year veteran of Miami Urban Search and Rescue, one of 28 elite specially trained squads sponsored by FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Every team has 62 members, each one a certified EMT with special training in technical rescue.
Technical rescue is a fancy name for heavy rescue. It's a little bit more involved. It's more collapse shoring work, hazardous materials. Technical rescue teams are more of your out-of-the-ordinary type of calls.
Whatever the situation, Urban Search and Rescue is ready to face collapsed buildings, unstable ground, and exposed shards of glass and metal.
At any given collapse situation, there's always the possibility of secondary collapse. There's always the possibility you can twist an ankle. Anything that you can think of, it can possibly happen.
The rescue workers are at risk for cuts and scrapes, broken bones and burns. They also face respiratory problems from hazardous materials, dust, and carbon monoxide. Today's call carries all the potential risks. With the clock ticking and the victims inside, the question is whether search and rescue can get to them in time. October 26, 1985, East Tennessee State versus the Citadel. 19-year-old Mark Bonaconti, son of Miami Dolphins football legend Nick Bonaconti, is playing defense. Suddenly, he goes down.
And I made a tackle like I have done 1,000 times, you know, in the past. The next thing I know, I went from being in the best shape of my life to fighting for my life as I made a tackle and I felt my body just fall to the turf, and immediately I knew I was paralyzed.
Mark's injuries were so severe, he was in danger of dying.
And I was really fighting for my life. I was having tremendous amount of difficulty breathing, and I laid on the field for about a half an hour. I don't even think they knew what they were, you know, doing, or they just had never seen such a tragic case as mine.
Since that day, Mark has been unable to walk. But in an ironic twist, much of what has been learned about paralysis is due in part to his accident.
Mark Bonacani was really the first one to come out of the closet and say, look, I don't have an infectious disease. I'm paralyzed. My brain's good. I want to walk again.
Hi, Shell.
Hello, how are you, Marky?
Well,
Wonderful to see you.
Because of Mark and other high-profile paraplegics, the plight of people crippled by horrific injuries began to get serious attention from the scientific and medical community.
every day I wake up, I know what my job is. I have to get out there and do whatever I need to do to raise awareness to help cure paralysis. Because the more I do, the less time I'll be in this wheelchair, the less time all of us will be in this wheelchair.
Mark's case and the attention it garnered helped lead to the creation of the Miami Project to Cure Paralysis.
1.6.
Today, it is the largest center for spinal cord research in the world.
Curing spinal cord injury is probably like, I don't know, the holy grail of medicine.
It started out as a dream, as a concept that if we could put together an ideal team of scientists from all the disciplines and had the best technology, that we could take a medical problem and cure it.
John, do you need it raised a bit?
That's good.
It's a 1/7.
To recircuit the nervous system. And that's really a challenge to cure paralysis.
Is this the proposal?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
These days, Mark Bonacanti spends a lot of time at the center,
That's a nice letter.
not as a patient, but as a proponent of the effort to cure paralysis.
People get involved in it, they love what we do and they believe in it. And when you meet some of the people in wheelchairs, when you get a chance to meet the people infected with it and their families, it just gets you to do more.
Mark dreams of one day being able to walk again. So does Claudio Nalersa, who volunteered for a new study at the center that is part of the urgent effort to find a cure.
Good morning, Gadil.
Hey, Claudio, how are you doing today?
I'm fine.
Feeling better?
Actually, I feel good. The weather is nice.
1,200 miles from Miami, 48-year-old Yossi Melman is struggling to change his life.
Every time I come by neighborhoods like this one, I kind of cringe inside because it brings back memories of the worst periods of my life. You know, the times when I hit bottom, the times when I took a lot of beatings on the street.
2 years ago, an addiction to crack cocaine left Yossi jobless, hopeless, and homeless on the streets of New York.
By the time I was 16, I started experimenting with marijuana. I continued smoking pot, and then I tried cocaine when I was 18 years old. The first time I tried it, I fell in love with it. When you're on drugs, you are willing to go to any length to get them. When you drive cabs, you come in contact with all kinds of people. So sooner or later, you're bound to find someone who's willing to show you where you can buy this or where you can buy that. So, you know, finding them was not really a problem.
Yossi continued to use drugs for 19 years until his life began falling apart.
I remember one particular night when I had run out of money to buy drugs. One particular fellow drug addict had told me about this van that was parked, that was loaded up with beer and soda and a whole bunch of other things. So we went in and we basically went inside the truck and helped ourselves to anything that we wanted. So I hauled off about 3 cases of beer, which I was able to trade in for a couple of little bottles of crack. If you parked your van or your car in one of these neighborhoods, you would run the risk of having it vandalized, and it would end up looking like this one.
Yossi had no money, no home, and nowhere to turn.
When you're doing drugs, when you're living in the drug world, you have no friends. You have, like in a bar, you have drinking buddies. Out in the streets, you had crack smoking buddies. There were no such things as friends.
2 times he went into rehab, and 2 times it failed to keep him off drugs.
I did not care whether I lived or died. As a matter of fact, I wished that I had died. I really wanted to die.
Then he heard about a groundbreaking treatment program in Miami.
Yossi! Hey, compadre, what's up?
A program so effective, it had an unprecedented 100% retention rate, according to one study.
That's it? It's nice and cool for a change.
With those odds, Yossi hopes it will help save his life.
Okay. And you know what? I parked nice and close for you.
Thank God.
Two hours ago, this building in downtown Miami collapsed, leaving 25 firefighters to dig through an enormous pile of dangerous rubble.
Just heard that the workers are on the north side of the building.
In an attempt to reach a workman trapped inside.
So you guys work as a team also, relieving each other on the north side.
We're still way early into the operation. We still have a whole bunch of adrenaline rush. So we look more tired than we feel, that's guaranteed.
So we want to move to an area where you might think there's a void and start clearing it.
For these firefighters, the adrenaline is real. And so are the dangers.
Watch the glass.
But the scenario itself is part of a high-stakes training drill designed to prepare them for the most catastrophic events.
Because they're going to perform in real life the way they train. So we want to make it as realistic as possible, and this is the real deal.
One they'll dig for this one will be the first alert. It'll be a false hit. Then you'll have
John Holgerson is the president of Rescue Training Associates in Miami.
Just want to show you that this force is going to come down and move this back.
One of only half a dozen companies in the world dedicated to teaching rescue workers how to prepare for extraordinary disasters.
If there's a disaster, we're there, and it gives the folks that come through our classes a sense of realism, the fact they're dealing with people who do it for a living, not just read it out of books.
Jokers want this choke right on top of it, okay?
Rescue Training Associates has gathered more than 100 firefighters from around the country for 3 days of intensive training.
The cradle, right? If that boom tip is right, that should come straight up.
That culminates in a full-scale simulated rescue.
All right, let's get the other one right across.
The instructors are current or former members of the FEMA search and rescue team.
One flag person, he's the flag man. You got something under it?
A national squad that specializes in high-risk disaster sites, like the World Trade Center.
The tethers are about 100 feet long.
They teach the firefighters how to find trapped survivors with high-tech search robots.
It has 3 filters.
And motion detectors.
Move it up! Move it up! Hold that!
Hold it!
And how to operate the heavy machinery that's needed to clear massive sites, like Ground Zero.
You know, at any given time, you know, there's always that degree of danger, but you try to make the situation as safe as possible for you.
What I'd like to do here is put one of the extra dummies in the car.
To test these new skills, John Holgerson transforms this manufacturing plant into a search and rescue battleground. At John's instruction, walls are collapsed and buildings leveled, including a 2.5-story structure that is laid out as though it's been struck by a hurricane.
And this particular mock-up which we're making is to simulate victims that are trapped 2 or 3 levels below grade or trapped underneath 2 or 3 levels of rubble. The victims will be placed under this metal deck, if you will, and then all the rubble that you see surrounding it will be placed on top, and the rescuers will have to basically cut through and remove about 2 to 3 layers of debris.
That rubble will include hundreds of tons of wood, concrete, and iron.
This is what we saw in New York City at the World Trade Center disaster, which was real difficult because of the amount and size of the steel that had to get moved. It slowed the operations down tremendously.
Besides the collapsed structures, a car is buried under concrete to simulate the conditions during a massive earthquake.
The rescuers not only have to cut through all the steel and the rebar and the wire, but they also have to extricate somebody out of a car that's been crushed.
6 hours later, the firefighters face the disaster area for the first time.
Get your task force and your squad over here.
The hazards surrounding them are real, as this intense all-night exercise enters its most dangerous phase.
Why don't you come around here and we'll get your harness on and
At the Miami Center to Cure Paralysis,
I can feel it.
Claudio is helping to lead the way to the future.
Don't blush.
Claudio is partially paralyzed because of a tumor in his spinal cord,
Oh, it's okay.
making him one of 500,000 people in the United States with spinal cord damage.
Most people who have spinal cord injuries have what we call incomplete injuries, where they do have some motor function below the level of the injury. Now, the amount of function depends on how much damage there was to the cord. Good.
Miami Project Assistant Professor Dr. Adele Field-Faute is attempting to harness that motor function to one day help wheelchair-bound patients like Mark Bonaconti and Claudio walk again.
Everybody that's around and it's in a wheelchair here hopes for an eventual cure. That's why we are around.
It has been 16 years. And maybe 16 years when you're sitting in my position is a long time, and it is. I wanted to get up after my first day injured. But in science years, it's really not a very long time.
Doctors believe the cure for paralysis may involve transplanting healthy cells into the spinal cord to physically regenerate it.
Rebecca, let's go ahead and start at 0.5. Okay.
The spinal cord is like an electrical cable that's got millions of wires in it that go to and from the brain. And it's part of the central nervous system like the brain, so it's very susceptible to injury. So this is the thoracolumbar junction, which
Dr.
is the most
Barth A. Green, president of the Miami Project, says injuries result in a breakdown in the pathway from the brain to the spinal cord.
And if you can picture a telephone cable, when it's damaged, it's either crushed or it's cut, and it doesn't send the messages. In 90% of the cases, it's not cut, but it's just bruised or damaged. But it doesn't have the ability to conduct the messages, even though there's enough wires there.
Need a rest?
No.
Since the spinal cord doesn't properly receive those messages from the brain, people like Claudio may be left paralyzed, at least partially. Much of that function takes the form of involuntary or reflex movements, which happen independently of the brain.
Not yet.
So I'm going to take you up a little bit.
Dr. Field-Faute says that after being paralyzed, patients with a newly restored spinal cord will need to be conditioned to walk again.
Need a rest? No. The individuals are not going to just jump off the operating table and run down the hallway. They're going to need something to help them relearn how to use that circuitry, how to do the movements again. I'm going to turn that right one up just a tad. And so by getting a jump on this, we can be ready for that day. Looks good. You doing okay?
Claudio is ready and has been since the day he lost his ability to walk.
Maybe a little too much, huh?
In 1999, Yossi Melman arrived in Miami desperate to break his crack habit. Yossi was betting his life on a drug treatment program that was claiming great success.
Yes. Still clean? Of course.
That day, he entered the Exodus Treatment Center outpatient program.
I want an update on pretty much what's been going on over the last 6 months for you.
the first comprehensive program in the country to combine traditional drug rehab with chiropractic treatment.
Because the desire never quite goes away completely.
Chiropractor Dr. Jay Holder is the founder and director of the Exodus Treatment Center.
So I know that in the beginning you had some dreams about using, and you had...
Dr. Holder was one of the first chiropractors to apply what's known as subluxation-based chiropractic to the treatment of addicted patients like Yossi. A subluxation is a dysfunction of the vertebrae in the spine. It can interfere with the nerves and thus the body's ability to function properly. Dr. Holder believes there is a link between these spinal subluxations and the ability of an addict to kick his habit.
A trained doctor of chiropractic has the ability to find and locate subluxations and correct them. In doing so, he allows the body to manifest a greater potential for state of well-being, physical and mental health, for the body to be able to deal with possible disease or other health care concerns.
Nationally, it is estimated that up to 20% of the population, close to 52 million people, are addicted to drugs. For those who seek treatment in a typical 30-day residential program, odds are that only 72% will complete their therapy.
We know that people that fall short of completing their full time in treatment, such as a 30-day model, have little or no chance of success in staying clean for any length of time, not even a week or two in most cases.
So it's 3 meetings every Saturday.
According to an 18-month study that was designed by a researcher from the University of Miami School of Medicine and Dr. Holder, the retention rate for patients in the Exodus program is much higher.
We noticed that anxiety was greatly reduced in that chiropractic population. We saw significant changes in anxiety, we saw changes in depression, we saw changes in reduced reporting to nursing station for nursing station care and visits, and we had a 100% retention rate. There may not be too many changes, but I need to know what changes are and are not in place for you.
Detoxing from drugs is not a walk in the park. It's important that one gets chiropractic adjustments on a regular basis. Nutrition is extremely important. One-to-one therapy is extremely important. It's a combination of things.
Yossi's hope is that by sticking with the program, it will help him from becoming another failed rehab statistic.
And we're going to determine that you are clean.
Okay.
We'll be positive about it.
Absolutely.
Getting some spasticity there, huh?
Claudio Nalersa is almost completely paralyzed below the waist.
Hey, watch yourself in the mirror, okay? Chin up.
1 year ago, he left his native Romania for Miami with the dream of walking again.
Yeah? It's not uncomfortable, though, is it?
No.
Since 1998, a growing tumor has been slowly crushing his spine.
You get those knees nice and straight.
Romanian doctors told him the tumor had to be removed.
I was a medical student at that time, and I knew it was a pretty risky surgery, and unfortunately we didn't have the right equipment back in Romania, even though we have very good doctors.
How's that right leg feel?
Claudio turned to surgeons in the United States, but they were only able to remove part of the tumor.
I was fine after the surgery. I got better. I was walking normally. But in about 1 year, I started to deteriorate and lose function.
Looks nice, Claudio. I'm going to turn that right one up just a tad.
That's when he came to the Miami Center to Cure Paralysis,
Really sensitive, huh? Just a little bit of change.
hoping for a miracle.
That looks very nice, Claudio.
But his prognosis wasn't good. And this time, doctors took out an even larger piece of the tumor.
And in order to remove the tumor, they had to go in and take off part of the column, the vertebra that supports the spinal cord. And so he doesn't have the same amount of support that he should have there.
Removing the tumor meant Claudio would lose any chance of walking again. Dr. Adele Field-Fauteuil says that as a result, Claudio is now about 85% paralyzed below the waist.
Can you feel the stimulation at all, or just? Yeah.
But the road to his recovery may begin with the work he's doing today on this treadmill.
Want to rest? Are you sure?
November 3rd, 2001, 8 a.m. Hurricane Michelle has been spotted off the coast of the Cayman Islands, 450 miles from Florida.
Our message to the people of South Florida is they shouldn't be alarmed, but it's time to take precautions. They need to.
And Miami Mayor Alex Pinellas says the city has to be ready for the worst.
Well, right now we know that based on the current projections, the storm could impact us 58 hours from now. You gotta always be thinking ahead.
In Florida, hurricanes aren't just a threat, they're a guarantee. They lash out with winds that can reach more than 200 miles an hour while dumping up to 70 inches of rain. Florida was home to the most expensive hurricane ever, Hurricane Andrew, which caused $26 billion in damage, centered around the city of Homestead.
Well, Hurricane Andrew, I mean, that was, an incredible event. Being in Homestead, that was ground zero. Everything was more destroyed than I ever could have imagined.
We are again expecting tropical storm conditions here early on Monday.
To avoid a disaster of that magnitude if Hurricane Michelle hits the area.
And right now, the entire east coast of Florida is under a coastal flood warning.
Officials from the Miami-Dade Office of Emergency Management,
that's our evacuation zones that we're going to use,
are gathering in this 6,000 square foot underground bunker.
Michelle number 17 is what you should be looking at.
It's the nerve center for Miami's emergency operations.
Maybe a later start on Saturday instead of an 8 to 8.
This is where the city's top officials plan for potential evacuations.
I'm not planning a Cat 3.
Flooding and rescue scenarios.
Well, we hope to save lives, prevent damage, and make recovery smoother, a little bit more comfortable to our residents should a disaster occur.
The bunker is also home to the Miami-Dade Answer Center, where local residents can call for information. Operators are taking 500 calls an hour.
I believe the mayor is looking at a press conference this evening.
As the division manager of emergency management,
probably by tomorrow.
Bill Johnson says it's important to warn the 2 million people in the greater Miami area.
We're asking the community to gas up their cars, review their evacuation plans, review their hurricane plans, get ready, locate their shutters, those kinds of things, those preliminary activities.
Any significant amount of rain will cause some flooding problems, but obviously...
That message goes out via the internet, the news media, and through operators at the center.
The most difficult part is, particularly in a system like this, Hurricane Michelle, where the conditions are constantly changing, making sure that we provide constant, accurate, up-to-date information. And sometimes people are calling us for the information that's not readily available.
As the storm gets closer, the number of calls could rise to 2,000 an hour.
100 knots just to 120.
Callers will rely on information from the National Hurricane Center, Miami's pipeline to the heart of the storm.
Hurricane just passed one of those little islands south of Cuba.
Just get up on here.
Recovering drug addict Yossi Melman has come to the Exodus Treatment Center, the first licensed treatment program of its kind.
All right, let's start it right now.
Begin scan. It combines traditional addiction treatment with chiropractic adjustments.
Sit still.
When a vertebrae is out of alignment, it exerts pressure on a nerve. So by maintaining the spine aligned at all times, you allow the body to heal itself.
First, Yossi undergoes a surface EMG and a thermal scan, which measures muscle activity and temperature differentiations. These tests will identify any patterns of tension or imbalances along the spinal region. C3. Such patterns indicate dysfunctions that could make Yossi vulnerable to a relapse.
Left C1.
The tests are prescribed by chiropractor Dr. Jay Holder,
Gotta swab you with alcohol. Make sure the skin.
who says these dysfunctions along the spine may be signs of subluxations.
All right, that wasn't too bad, was it?
Subluxations that can interrupt the flow of neurotransmitters and interfere with a sense of well-being.
This table look familiar? They have a lack in the ability to manifest a normal state of well-being. These people are at high risk for addictions and compulsive disorders. Before I put you down on the table, I just want to give you some good news. You have essentially 90% improvement from when you were here last. Hold on. You can put your arms anywhere you want.
Despite that improvement, Dr. Holder confirms that Yossi has several subluxated vertebrae.
Remember that first bone in your neck, the atlas?
Dr. Holder treats him using a spring-loaded spinal adjusting instrument he created.
We're going to correct it now, taking a deep breath. Let it out.
It's called the Integrator, and it's the first chiropractic instrument submitted for FDA clearance.
The integrator is able to reproduce what the hands of the chiropractor are intended to deliver in correcting the subluxation by offering a high rate of speed, but higher than even the speed of the hands, because the integrator performs or fires at 1/10,000th of a second. Back in the middle.
But Yossi's treatment isn't over yet. To beat his addiction to cocaine, Yossi must overcome his cravings for the drug. For that, Dr. Holder wants to add another new kind of treatment. Yossi will undergo that next.
You're all set. That was a good adjustment.
This is holding us up.
To find the survivors trapped inside this 2.5-story collapsed building, these firefighters are racing against time.
We're so excited to be out here, we hardly feel it. It's when we get our breaks or we get to wind down a little bit that we're like, okay, we're getting tired. But we're doing all right.
First thing they do is they're just trying to figure out where to start. And that's the biggest thing that you see. Their eyes get real wide and they kind of just look around the whole debris pile for a while and basically ask, where do I start?
They're being watched every step of the way.
If you jumped it, it's tight, right? But now you got to be careful of the reaction of what the bottom part's going to do, right?
And for good reason. It's this type of training that prepares rescuers for mass-scale disaster operations like the World Trade Center.
Rebar, I believe I'm on rebar right now.
Most of the folks out here have never done this before, not on a live site. It's a whole different world when you come out on a real site, especially at night.
Despite the planning, there's no script and no guarantee that one of them won't slip or fall or get trapped beneath the rubble.
This is a real collapse site. You can look and see the twisted metal and steel, the concrete. There are real hazards here. We have safety instructors, senior safety people who are watching over, making sure they're staying safe, that they're not having a chance to get cut, fall, have something fall on top of them.
Dehydration and exhaustion are also concerns.
Don't forget, this is angle iron.
Tonight, they won't stop digging until they find the victims.
Here they're working on unstable footing, precarious footing, a lot of different types of rubble, and they're not used to that. Anytime you do live site training, there's a lot of inherent hazards that we have to deal with, and this is dangerous. It's the real deal.
The work is slow and painstaking. And for students like firefighter Roger Miranda, that wait can be frustrating.
We've been out here for a while now, and we have an idea there may be a patient there. Now it's just a matter of trying to get to them in case there is a patient there, and it's just really slow going. You got to be very careful.
You need 50, we just hook them together. Rescue is more just dirty, grimy work than anything, but every once in a while it pays off, and you actually save somebody.
Search dogs that can sniff out a person trapped beneath 20 feet of debris help narrow the range.
What they do is save a lot of time, and time is of the essence for people trapped on the rubble.
Remember, the top one's the one that goes left.
Then the team turns to a pole-mounted camera that can be inserted 10 feet into the rubble and see more than 10 feet in the dark.
We're getting very close to what I believe to be a recovery, possibly a rescue.
They're close, but the search continues for more than an hour.
I thought that might be a patch or something.
The rescue team keeps searching until finally they find signs of what appears to be a victim.
That's the only thing. That's all I'm showing. We saw something that might have looked like a little bit of fabric, some sort of fabric, maybe a button or something. Not really much.
It's hard for them to see, and the clues are confusing.
They are overwhelmed because it's very frustrating. You can work hours and hours and hours and hours and realize that what you identified on the camera is not what you really thought it was. And you get very frustrated. But that's real life.
It looked like fabric, but there's a black and white monitor, so we couldn't like differentiate with colors or anything. We'll see.
They've got to figure out if they're getting close to a recovery or looking in the wrong place.
So I'm going to measure these points to determine whether they need to be treated or not.
Yossi Melman has come to the Exodus Treatment Center to kick a 19-year addiction to drugs.
And this is going to help reduce your drug hunger or drug appetite.
The program, designed by Dr. Jay Holder, also uses auricular therapy to treat cranial nerves in the ear.
Auricular therapy is the ability to locate dysfunctional or abnormal points distributed along 4 cranial nerves that innervate the ear. We're going to do kidney on you now.
Those nerves connect directly within the brain, where they stimulate the release of chemicals. Dr. Holder says that if the electrical frequency of those nerves is too high or too low, the chemicals can be out of balance.
That hurt?
According to Dr. Holder, this imbalance can help cause a lack of well-being that makes it harder for people like Yossi to overcome their addiction to drugs.
All right, turn over on the other side.
A study on Dr. Holder's treatment concludes that addicted patients receiving auricular therapy were more likely to complete drug rehab than those who weren't.
All these points on
Miami-Dade County Drug Court was the first of many to offer this treatment. Using a handheld electrical device, Dr. Holder finds that Yossi has 2 unbalanced nerves.
This point is definitely loaded up.
So he delivers electric microcurrents for about 30 seconds to restore their levels.
All right, so we're all set.
After the treatment, Dr. Holder gives Yossi an overall assessment of his progress.
We're going to have to put some extra work in and re-establish some new treatment goals. So what do you think the results were?
Negative, all the way.
Of course. You're expected, as you know, to go to an AA or NA meeting, at least one a day.
Yossi has another week of treatments here in Miami, but soon he'll be back on his own in New York, fighting to stay drug-free.
To see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I'm going to take you up front. We're going to schedule your next appointment.
Hurricane Michelle is less than 24 hours from the shores of Florida. At the National Hurricane Center in Miami,
100 knots, gust to 120.
Scientists are tracking the storm's every move.
We're trying to make sure that the information generated here in the National Hurricane Center is obtained in a timely fashion and can be sent to the people who have to make the life-threatening decisions.
A large, big extratropical storm.
The center gathers information via satellite from 3 Air Force jets that fly straight into the heart of the storm.
The airport is...
Analysts at the Hurricane Center process that data.
The center of the hurricane is now making landfall on the south coast of Cuba.
Seconds later, it's in the hands of Deputy Director Ed Rappaport, who broadcasts it to millions of people nationwide.
36 hours, the system is beginning to become extratropical.
Based on their latest data, forecasters believe Hurricane Michelle will pass just northeast of Miami. The next day, their prediction turns out to be right. Miami gets hit with 50-mile-an-hour winds and only 2 inches of rain. This time, they're spared. But everyone knows there's always another storm brewing on the horizon.
Left, right. That looks very nice, Claudio.
For the first time in several years, Claudio Nalersa is walking, but not without help.
How's that?
Claudio walks 3 times a week as part of a new research study at the Miami Center to Cure Paralysis called the Locomotor Study.
Right after someone's paralyzed, they can't voluntarily move their legs, but we stand them up with this special harness and treadmill, and we teach them to walk again. Because we know there's a center in the spinal cord, like a mini brain, called the locomotor center, that allows this development of gait or walking again.
Claudio is given a series of 100-volt bursts of electrical stimulation to a single nerve in his leg.
Looks good. You doing okay? Let me know when you need to rest, okay?
This nerve sends a message to the spinal cord, which in turn produces a reflex reaction in the opposite leg. This causes the leg to spontaneously lift up, just as though Claudio was taking a step.
And this is the reflex that you would have if you were walking down the street and you stepped on a tack. And there's good scientific evidence to suggest that this reflex is part of the spinal circuitry that produces walking.
By receiving alternating jolts to his legs at half-second intervals, Claudio can effectively walk on the treadmill.
So our idea is that by combining this bodyweight support, which has been shown to be successful in animals, with this electrical stimulation, which is a very easy intervention to apply, and make use of the spinal cord circuitry, we can improve function. Need to rest?
I can do a couple of them.
This movement utilizes Claudio's mostly dormant spinal cord. By conducting messages again, Dr. Field Fote believes the cord may begin to relearn the functions it has lost.
So it may be that the stimulation talks to the cord somehow to help reorganize the circuitry in a way that's more normal and can help improve that function. You want to stop?
Yeah.
Claudio has already improved. When he joined the study, he was able to walk for just 5 minutes at a time. Now, after 6 weeks, he's up to 15 minutes.
All right, good job.
I have good days and bad days. If I'm in a good day, it doesn't take so much effort and I can go long distances.
It's just a temporary solution. But when the real cure comes, Dr. Field Fote believes people like Claudio and Mark Bonaconti will be ready.
I think it's just a matter of time before we find a cure for paralysis. But I think it's also very important to remember that it's not going to be one magic bullet. It's going to be a number of things, and no matter what that final cocktail looks like, it's going to require some retraining.
I think we've been able to overcome some of the hardest obstacles as far as regeneration and cells communicating with each other. I think that it's just a matter of time, and we'll be on our way.
Okay, you're all set. Just get these out of your way.
Keep on cutting away, expose as much as you can.
It's 5 a.m., and in this collapsed building scenario, a team of students believe they have found the victim buried inside. It's taken much longer than expected.
They lost about 2 hours of time because the initial people on the tech search cameras missed the victim.
To make the rescue, they use a saw that's capable of cutting through thick steel.
Earthquake! All right, guys, be careful what you're cutting, because what you're cutting might be supporting all this concrete. Ready? One, you just count.
Put him right here.
Finally, at dawn,
1, 2, 3.
their efforts pay off.
Again.
The searchers have been on the job for 14 hours and awake for almost 30.
Exhausted. Exhausted. I can totally sympathize with the guys that went up to the World Trade Center. They did this for 2 weeks. We did it for 1 day, and most of us are dead. But it was very interesting.
As they discovered, finding a victim buried in rubble isn't easy.
The reality is they're covered with soot, dust. They blend right into the debris, and you literally walk over somebody or on top of them and not know that they're there. importance of this type of training for these folks is to give them that real-world sense so that the next time it is a real sight, they won't miss that victim. What this is more than anything else is a wake-up call for them to make them understand the type of training they need to do, the equipment they need to get, and the skills they need to improve upon.
You got 3 portions left, that's it?
After being treated at the Exodus Treatment Center in Florida,
all right, it's fresh enough.
Recovering drug addict Yossi Melman is back in New York City.
What are the specials today, man?
And back to his regular routine. He now works in a restaurant.
Can I taste it? No. Come on, give me a taste, man.
And stays drug-free with the help of regular chiropractic adjustments and exercise.
For me, working out means everything. Just like going to meetings is everything, proper nutrition is everything, spiritual living is everything. It's all a part of it. It works together.
He goes to the gym 5 days a week for 2 hours a day. But he says the key is the treatment he's received from Dr. Jay Holder in Miami.
If this program weren't available to me, I don't even want to think where I would be now. The way I feel about Dr. Holder is the man has literally saved my life. There's no question about that. Without him, I would not be where I am today.
For people like Yossi, Miami is a city of second chances. The perfect place to start over. Especially when too much of a good thing can leave people wiped out.